Hello there, everybody, and welcome to episode 20 of My Team Career Mode. Mexico is up next, and the last round at the US Grand Prix wasn't too bad. We got a really good P6, but unfortunately, Gasly actually finished in P7, so we didn't extend the gap to AlphaTauri too much, and it basically means that we have a couple more rounds to get 23 points and jump above AlphaTauri in the Constructors' Championship. So we need a huge couple of races, but it feels like the car actually now in an okay spot with a bunch of upgrades as of recent. We have also put points towards a big chassis upgrade, which will come in for the final two races, I believe, as well. As we jump into qualifying now here at Mexico, a track which I really enjoy and I'm actually okay at. So really going to push hard here and just see if we can drive the wheels off this thing and find a bit of pace. And through practice, through qualifying, the car felt good. So we'll be hoping to just finish as high as we possibly can, push Q2, maybe even Q3. And hopefully, like we've seen in the last couple of rounds, a lot of other drivers will have penalties for power unit components, and we might be able to be in a really good position at the start to find some points. And again, hopefully AlphaTauri have a bad weekend so that we can capitalize on that and narrow the gap for the final few races. So far, it's been a pretty clean lap. Our banker for Q1. No major mistakes, and all around pretty decent pace. But we'll build into that hopefully for the second lap. It's 117.5, actually good enough for P1 provisionally. We get bumped down to 7th though, as we look to do a second lap in the session. And I wasn't all that confident in my lap being good enough, so I just wanted to make sure that we do a second safe lap. Don't really need this set of tires later on. Unfortunately, I run there through the S's. Not all that amazing, and we lose a couple of tenths, but we're still up at our time, so we'll commit to it and finish it off now, heading into the stadium sections of 13, 14, and then 15 as qualifying completes. When we cross the line, this will be our final lap of the session. Currently in P10, so potentially at risk of getting bumped down further in the order. So let's see where we do eventually end up. And it's a pretty solid position 9 in qualifying 1. So really happy with that result. And it actually gives me a lot of confidence now going forward in these sessions that perhaps we could pull something out of the bag, because for the most part my pace was actually really good around this track. Obviously I'll lose quite a bit of time on the straights, but I think that's more of a factor in the race. And yeah, my race pace does tend to be a little bit poor. So yeah, we'll worry about that then, as Alonso blocking us a little bit here on our first lap of Q2. Fortunately, we don't really lose too much time as we look to tighten up now through the S's. The car, I don't know, felt a little bit inconsistent through there. It was probably more so driver error, if anything. So we'll see how this lap time does compare to our efforts in Q1. As I run through the stadium section, a little bit wide, so this hasn't been the greatest of laps, but I have found that the AI not great through a lot of the slow speed sections either, so we'll see whether it's good enough. Actually, Q2, half a second off Hamilton, probably expected, and that's bumped us down to P7 now as we prepare for a second lap here in Q2, looking to better that time and solidify a position in the top 10. But as I mentioned, the S is a bit of a threat, and on that second run we do get out of shape, and that will be us done in Q2. Fortunately though, we survive, half a second off the pace of Lando Norris, actually the fastest in that session, as we move on to qualifying 3. Now this lap is on that same set of tires we did spin out on, just wanting to get a banker lap in, and then we'll commit to so I already did a lap rather. I already did a lap on that previous set of tires, that's why we're in position 6, and this is my flying lap attempt here, with only 10 seconds to go now in the session. So we're looking to improve here, and I should gradually find time, especially through that second sector, and I think as well as stadium section has a lot of time still to find. Our first sector relatively clean now through the double right-hander leading in to the back section of the track, looking to get a good run up to turn 7 as we flick it in, down into 5th gear, trying to use the curves, which you have to be so careful not to ride them too aggressively. Now for the S's, and actually pretty good flow through there this time around, despite our earlier spin. And now it's about trying to find time in the stadium section. We flick it down to 4th gear, and that was where I found quite a bit of time there, just carrying a bit more momentum as we look to hug the hairpin now. The slow section has got to crawl through. We lose a little bit of traction, but we recover. And it's a 3/10 improvement as we round the final corner. A decent exit up to 4/10 of improvement. And that will be good enough for position 5, which is such an awesome result.
Welcome to Mexico City, the most popular city in North America, and home, of course, to the Mexico City Grand Prix. It's a sellout crowd as usual here at one of the shortest circuits on the Formula One calendar. And who, I wonder, will they be cheering on the top step of today's podium? We're a long way above sea level here in Mexico today, which could pose some cooling issues for the cars as they make their way around this 2.6-mile lap. 17 corners with top speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour, and watch out for potential overtaking into turns 1 and 4. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Mir, Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas and Ricciardo. They've taken a grid penalty. Albon, Fernando Alonso, Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly. Magnussen, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Stroll, George Russell and Sainz. Verstappen, Vettel, Jack Aitken and Guan Yu Zhou. Latifi, Ocon, Leclerc and Mick Schumacher. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. It's just about time to go down to the track for the beginning of the race, but before we do, Anthony Davidson, what types of strategy do you think we can expect for today's event?
Well, there's a lot that both the driver and the team have to keep in mind when going into a race. The tyres, fuel, energy recovery systems, the list goes on and on. But I think the key to today's victory will come down to the pit stop strategy. Come in too soon and you might find yourself needing more than one stop. Too late and you're putting yourself at a disadvantage by spending longer on worn tyres.
Here we are then on the grid for the Mexican Grand Prix, and we are in position 3 thanks to penalties on surrounding cars. So that is absolutely crazy. A little bit disappointing that Ricciardo gets knocked out. Although I believe it's actually on provisional pole, but that's okay. I'm not going to complain too much because every single point is ultra important for that sponsor bonus, which just continues to grow and grow. I think it's over about 8 mil. But we'll get confirmation of that before the last race, just so we know what the stakes are. And we look to get some heat into these tyres. And we'll be looking for a very clean launch off the line to see if potentially we can threaten Norris and Perez into turn 1. It's a very long run into turn 1. And this launch is going to be absolutely massive. If we can get the track position, try and hold up the pack, it could make things very interesting. Of course, we'll need a lot to go our way in this race for a good result and to find points against AlphaTauri, but we need to put our best foot forward as the lights go out. And the launch has been incredible. Look at that, absolutely flying past Norris into position 1. But only momentarily. Norris gets a good run himself alongside Perez, and I think it's 3 wide into the first corner. We're brave, we stick it around, and we actually come out on top. So we are in P1 of this Grand Prix. Absolutely unbelievable, to be honest, but I know that especially once DRS gets activated, we are going to be stranded a little bit. So we're going to push hard here, see if perhaps we can form a 1-second gap, or at the very least, just keep these cars behind and force them to battle for as long as we possibly can. And on top of all that, keep it clean, because we don't want to have any incidents at all and ruin our chances of getting points. AlphaTauri don't look particularly quick at this track at all. they may not score any points. So every single one we get is going to build towards that margin, which would be just so important. And we've done exactly that. We've kept it clean. Norris, though, very pacey behind, as expected. Much faster car, and his race pace will be better. So unfortunately, any hope of maybe finding a 1 second gap, not on the cards, but that was always a bit of a fantasy. We do retain position 1, though, at least for now, which is very exciting. On to lap 2, though, and the caution flag has been thrown. So yellow flags littering the track. Not entirely sure what that's for, but Daniel Ricciardo is out of the session. So the man that qualified on pole, then received a penalty, has now fallen out of the race completely. McLaren had great pace. So I don't know what's happened exactly there. We'll get a quick look at the replay as he goes really slow through the chicane, and I think his engine has just completely given up. So horrible luck there for Ricciardo, who, just for good measure, clutters his front wing on the inside barricade as well. But the good thing for us is every single lap we're not racing is a lap that I can't be overtaken. So the more safety cars, the better. Because the more we race, the more susceptible I'm going to be to falling behind other cars. So look, the more the merrier. And you can see just how defensive we're already having to be here on the restart. Norris and Perez finding so much speed in a straight line, and it's 3 wide again, heading into the first corner. A little bit of contact, I think, was made, but once again, we will end out on top. No damage as well, which is a big bonus. And Norris now 8 tenths behind. So quite a crazy restart there. And that start-finish line throughout the course of this race, I'm sure, is going to be the site of a lot of action for us, as we are going to be very vulnerable in a straight line. And I'm sure Norris, who's now found that gap back on lap 5, is probably going to put that on full display. We get a decent run out of the final corner, but Norris is steaming forward, setting the fastest lap of the session as he makes a move down the outside. We go to the inside to cover, at least for now. Perhaps we can try and hold on to this position. We're still side by side heading into the first corner. He doesn't quite get far enough ahead for me to really feel the need to back out. So we keep position 1 for now. Double DRS zone, though, on the exit of turn 3 on the lead up to the left-hander of 4, and Norris does get in front this time. And I thought about maybe sending the nose back down inside, but we're just going to lose time. We risk getting damage, and talk about going down the inside. Perez there, very opportunistic. He was way too far back. Makes contact with us. I don't know if either of us got damaged, but that was a little bit silly. And amongst all that, another safety car has been deployed due to debris. Perez didn't pit, so I don't think he lost any of his front wings. So I think it was a little bit further back. From memory, it was actually George Russell losing his front wing, who's having a bit of a shocking race. But nonetheless, we move on to the restart now. And Norris actually locking up into the first corner opens up the door for us to send it down the inside. And we once again get position 1 back in this race. It just feels like everything at the moment is going our way. Our luck has been incredible. But we're also capitalizing upon these opportunities as well. As we edge closer now towards a third of the way into this race, things are starting to settle in very nicely for us. Again, we're probably not going to be able to gap Norris outside of DRS 1 second range, but we are putting up a really fierce fight. It's clear that his car and cars around us are much quicker. But we're playing the game very smart here in placing our car and timing our runs and managing our ERS, and it seems to be paying off. To the start of lap 11 now. Once again, we are... Oh! I was going to say vulnerable on the straight. Pierre Gasly out of the session. That is even more luck. So that's one less AlphaTauri that can get points in this race. Norris flies past, but I'm not too concerned about that. He can have that position. I'm not really fighting for the win in this race, realistically. And I'm still just shocked that Pierre Gasly out of the session, so I can only assume he's had a mechanical fault of some description. He is much faster than Tsunoda this season. So that is a big gain for us, but we can't get too distracted as Perez now on the back end of that double DRS zone is threatening us, but we are able to hold that position for now and try to tuck behind Norris now. But yeah, that is such an incredible result for us. Of course, we don't want to prey on the misfortune of others, but we'll take it. Yeah, Pierre Gasly, as he enters the stadium section, just completely lost power. and parking it up on the side of the road. Gets it far enough out of the way that a safety car isn't called, but it's most definitely a DNF for one of the AlphaTauris. And that's just another big motivator for us in this race to keep on pushing. Perez does fly past, too far ahead for us to defend. So that's position 3 now on the 12th lap of the race. Bit of wheel spin on the exit and we can't really fight back. Hamilton now is pressuring from behind. We don't have a whole lot of ERS to defend, and we're just going to have to sit behind and hope that not too many other of those quicker cars further back in the grid due to penalties are going to catch up. Probably crossing our fingers for a couple more safety cars in this race, if possible, as our exit traction not very good at the moment. The tyres did feel like they were falling off quite a bit of a cliff actually during this race. But my prayers have been answered. Another safety car has been deployed on lap 14. Again, I think it was due to debris. Nonetheless, though, right when the tyres feel like they're going off, a safety car comes out at the perfect time for us to pit, and that's exactly what we'll do. Diving in behind Hamilton, in front of Bottas. Let's hope that well, it shouldn't be luck, but let's hope that it does somewhat continue here and the pit crew does put in a good time for us. I think there's only been a couple of bad pit stops throughout the year, so fingers crossed as the white wall tired hard Pirellis go onto the car when we exit. A 2.9 second stop, which unfortunately has put us behind Bottas, so not ideal, but probably could have been worse. And we actually exit across that safety car line and behind our teammate in Jack Aitken. Team orders would suggest that he's going to get out of the way, but we'll have to wait and see. Of course, he might still be a good chance to get some points in this race as well, and we are fighting for the Constructors' Championship, so we'll have to see how it plays out. On the restart, though, our exit wasn't great, and we're about 5 or 6 car lengths behind Aitken, if not more, up ahead, and we're forced to just tuck in behind as these cars ahead battling quite fiercely. The margin between them very small. We use ARS on the exit of turn 3 to perhaps have a look on our teammate as Alonso has a look on us, and we can't really defend against it. He goes for a double overtake there onto Aitken. Hopefully he can be stoic in his defense and hold him up for us, and that's exactly what he is able to do. So really good move there from Alonso, it has to be said. And we're not in a position to aggressively close the door there or anything like that. Not only because it would be pretty unsportsmanlike, but also any damage, and we've thrown a really good opportunity to get a big chunk of points. The thing to consider is, even though we're in position 8, a couple of cars up ahead and elsewhere haven't pitted at all yet, so they didn't take that opportunity during the safety car to pit. So our actual position is a little bit higher than what it currently is at the moment. We'll just have to kind of wait now for the race to come to us as Jack Aitken actually pulls into the pits. So our team throwing a little bit there on strategy, but we'll take position 7 and continue our charge forward as Russell in that Mercedes with the slightly superior straight line speed will whiz past. Perhaps though we can go back down the inside, and that's exactly what we're going to do. No holds bar as Alonso locks up as well. So he makes a great overtake on us on the previous lap and then locks up as we go wide. But we do get position 5 confirmed on lap 18, halfway through the race. And anything higher than 5th at this point would be great, but Bottas is now in our line of sight. I am confident that I'm faster than him, and it's all about just trying to find the right time and the right place to get that overtake done, and then also ensuring that we don't get re-overtaken. So I think ideally we need to get past him, find a second gap, and then not allow him to get us back along the start-finish line, because if he has DRS, he can basically find back that gap. That's just how quick the AI are in a straight line. So we're going to go down the inside into turn 4, and we do get the move stuck. But now it's all about finding about 8 tenths, 7 tenths throughout the second and third sector, and unfortunately we haven't been able to do that. So Bottas is able to get us back. However, we save our ERS and we'll preserve it for a better opportunity to find that time back. I think ultimately we have to try and get him on the start-finish line, find the rest of the gap throughout the lap, and then try to preserve it for the rest of the race. That is the ideal, optimal strategy in this particular situation, which easier said than done, but I'm trying to be patient here, ensuring that we do find the right time to get the move executed. We also have to be a little bit careful of Alonso behind. He's still looking quite racy, and even Sainz in the Ferrari not too far back either is also quick as well. Ferrari in the woes a little bit in the last couple of rounds, but they've already bagged that Drivers' and Constructors' Championship, so I don't think they're going to be all that worried as we just maintain pace with Bottas and try to get a good run out of the final corner. This is where we need to get a move done. About half a second behind as we enter the straight. We only have about 10% of our battery remaining, and I don't think here on lap 23 it's going to be enough. We are simply too far back to go for a move, and we're just going to have to go through a lap once more, conserve more ERS, try to ensure that we don't overheat these tires, and we'll go for another run on lap 24, and this one looking a lot more promising. Only a 3/10 gap, and the slipstream much more effective, using every little percentage of that overtake battery as we can. And as we enter the first corner, we find a gap and we send it down the inside. Bottas very respectful and gives us the room, but we get the move done, and that is position 4 at the Mexico Grand Prix on lap 24. And it's all about just keeping Bottas behind, extending that gap out of DRS range, and then hopefully just being smart and holding on to this position. Perez is 3.5 seconds up the road. He's pretty quick, so we're unlikely to catch him. And Bottas has already dramatically fallen off through the low speed sections, so we're going to push hard here, keep it clean. And as you can see, that gap already over a second gets a little bit wild there through the S section. That's just how hard we are pushing. We may well end up setting our best lap of the session right here as the car weight is reduced as we burn off that fuel. Second sector's green as well. So we've put in an amazing lap here, much like our qualifying runs. Really maximizing the performance of this car. It was across the line of 119.7, a time that doesn't really set the session alight, but great for us. And Bottas now can't mount a defense, so we just have to keep it clean and tidy. And we move on to the final lap. We have done exactly that. We've just put our head down, put in the laps, put in the times. Alonso squabbled with Bottas a little bit, which only helped me more. And it looks like position 4 is going to be where we end up. This has been an incredible weekend, and AlphaTauri nowhere to be seen. They have had a shocker. We've had quite a bit of luck here to achieve what we have managed to do, but we'll take it. Lewis Hamilton takes the checkered flag. Norris P2, Perez P3. We don't quite get our first podium, but it feels like it. Really, really happy with this result. And that brings the margin now to only 10 points. So this battle just continues to get more and more exciting.
The thin air makes this event a brutal one for these Formula One cars, but this team have done a fantastic job to make it to the checkered flag and take a well-earned victory today. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, I honestly feel it was down to the driver and car today. I mean, we can talk driver skill all day, but if you don't have a solid team to back that, you're never going to get anywhere. When you hit that sweet spot of having both an excellent driver and an incredible car, that's when you see results like those we witnessed today.
Well, Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again. Well, not the result our points leader would have wanted, but it certainly makes things interesting going forward. Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
But there's no question in my mind, it has to go to George Russell. What a performance. He's got every right to be proud of what he accomplished out there today.
So then, Ferrari have now moved out of sight and out of reach. It's another triumph for the Italian team as they claim the World Constructors' Championship. Meanwhile, good work from Aston Martin this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. Well, that was certainly an exciting weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.